You watched this when you're 12? Did it change your life? I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm sorry for convincing you to do it. All right, let's get to this conspiracy theory React Andy shite. And if it's bad,
the last few thousand years, we have warped our own history. Our stories of the past have been changed.
Well, quickly, for context, Moon Truther or for something else. Is this video Weird Champ or is this video exposing Weird Champ people? The video was about a conspiracy. I thought it was more mythology. I don't know. Someone recommended it. That's just the video? Yeah. Do you think God stays in heaven because he, too, lives in fear of what he created here on Earth? That's how I feel about my Twitch chat.
The curve on the precession of the equinox. Modern views of our history account for many things, but completely dismiss many very important pieces in the puzzle. For example, the pyramids of Giza. There is no modern theory that accounts for how these could have been made. Individually, each...
That's not true, right? That's just not true. They're like modern... even Stone Age engineering, it would be very easy to make the pyramids of Giza.
Block cannot be pulled even with 50 men pulling it, let alone drag it for hundreds of miles and then stack them on top of each other 450 feet in the air, in such a precise way that even modern technology can't achieve. Not to mention having it lined up precisely with both Orion's belt, a golden mean and Fibonacci spiral, and be a primary nodal point of every sacred site on the planet.
It's a primary nodal point, chat. See, that's where, at first I was thinking, like, come on, like, this is probably not true. And then he told me it was a primary nodal point. Yeah.
And that's just one example. Our history is not what we think. Many things that we've been led to believe to be true simply is not.
Do people in the comments believe this? Is this 4 million views because it's like a Weird Champ video? Or is this 4 million views because people believe it?
This has got to be the biggest. The field of archaeology recently saw some monumental discoveries that are rocking the foundation of what we think we know about ourselves. Many ancient cities
masonry
such as
work that can't be
Babylon,
replicated with today's
Erech,
masonry.
and
What does that
Akkad
mean,
written about in the
Spaceman?
Bible and other ancient texts were always thought to be
I'm
myths
confident we
because
could
no one
replicate
prove they
anything.
existed. Then,
Neon
one of them
Sparkable,
was
thank you so
found.
much for the Twitch
This
Prime
led
for 2
to
months.
finding another, and then another.
sir.
Inside one of these cities, archaeologists found thousands of cylindrical
In
clay
the Guatemalan
tablets hidden
pyramid?
deep within the earth under this ancient city. The tablets were completely covered in text, written
I mean,
in
if I can
cuneiform,
3D
and telling
print a
ancient
butt
story
plug
that spans
in my
back
own
over
home,
hundreds of
I
thousands of
think
years
we
on
could
this
fucking
planet,
do any kind of
describing the
masonry.
history of the earth and the origins of the human race in great detail. Now, the first thing we all want to do is just say that they were making things up. They didn't know the history of Earth, and they were simply creating tales to explain
They
where
does
they
not
came
cite
from.
a single thing.
However, if this was true, how can we explain how they knew so many things about the universe that would seem impossible to know? Not only did the
Did I
Dogons
say
know all
that I
about the
3D
distant
printed butt
planets in the
plug, or
solar
did I
system,
say
but
the
so
fact
did
that
the
I can
Sumerians. They described them all
is
in great
amazing.
detail in these Sumerian records. They also knew about the precession of the equinox. That's a tough one for a historian to understand, because it takes over 2,000 years of continuous observation to actually learn that the Earth has a wobble. The Sumerians had this information from day one of their civilization. A man named Zacharias Sitchin spent a long time transcribing these texts and had put them all together in his books.
Yeah, I've
But
seen
many
the
others have
Stonehenge
also
stuff.
done the same, and the interpretations are always very similar. Not only that, but Thoth has also shared information about this with
Thoth?
us, and his account matches the Sumerian records. Adamus and other channelings discuss it as well. If you see all of these records and sources, there is a huge connection between the stories. Picking up the story
How does
at the
Thoth
end of
share
Lemuria
info?
and
With his
discussing
bird
the events
mouth,
of
dude.
Atlantis
Come
up
on.
to present day. What I'm going to tell you is a mix of what these records say, along with what Thoth has told
There's
us
some
for some
weird
finer
Thoth,
details.
sorry.
Please
The
have
channel's
your own
Thoth.
experience while watching this. I'm not going to tell you that this is fact. I am simply saying, decide for yourself.
I will decide for myself.
Be psychic. We communicated through thought and emotion, much like how animals do rather than speaking or writing, which would
Does he think that animals communicate through thought? I'm sorry, what? What?
seem very primitive. We lived primarily on a large string of islands called Lemuria, but there was a consciousness shift. We moved
The
up
string
in
of islands
consciousness,
called
and the
Lemuria
islands of
'cause it looked like a
Lemuria
line?
sank beneath the oceans. At the
Ah.
time of this shift, a new continent rose out of the waters. We called it Atlantis. Back in the early 1900s, the spiritual path of the United States was similar to what's happening today. People began to learn about meditation and study ancient lands like Atlantis and Lemuria. We actually found quite a bit of evidence that Lemuria existed, and it had to do with coral. See, the ocean floor does rise and fall. Coral can exist up to 150 feet under the surface of the water. In 1910, the surface of the ocean was probably higher because they were able to see coral rings heading away from Easter Islands for a great
Got it,
distance. These rings
got
were
it.
estimated to be found at 1,800
I've never
feet,
heard of bird
which
thought.
means that for them to have existed, they would have had to be much higher and sunk slowly. Probably more important, they also found the
Crazy
exact
people
same
are
fauna
good at
and
animation.
flora
That's
from
wild,
the Hawaiian
huh?
Islands all the way to the Easter Islands. This is a great distance, but if you look at a map, you'll see a long string. That string, according to Thoth, used to run along the western shores of Lemuria.
I hate how
It
he
is
keeps
only
saying
on these
according to
islands that
Thoth,
have the same
which is
flora
this
and fauna.
bird god.
Same trees, bugs, bacteria, everything. Science can
I don't
only
believe in
explain this
Thoth,
if there
so
were
why should I
closer land
believe in
bridges
this?
between these islands at one point. Although we were studying this at that time, World War I began soon after, and we lost interest in spirituality and the ancient lands for a very long time.
Yeah,
After
totally.
the sinking of Lemuria and the rising of Atlantis, at first the human race became scattered. We moved to various islands and continents all over the world because we didn't have a home.
I cannot disprove that a god did or did not give
this
this
info. There were
info.
about 1,000 humans at a very high consciousness, more than all of the rest. They were called the Nicals. Today, we know them as
This is a
Ascended
guy who's
Masters.
chanting. Oh, the Ascended
Nicals
Masters.
began preparing Atlantis.
Ascended Masters, the Ascended Masters. That's from that video, the All Gas No Brakes, the Ascended Masters, the Republican goddess. There was people who talked about the Ascended Masters in that.
To be our new home. They projected their energies across the surface of the continent in the form of the Tree of Life, not with 10 circles, but with 12, an extra on top on the island of Udall, and an extra on the bottom in the water. There were 10 components on the mainland.
So do people
and even though
just
it
make
extended
shit
over
up and
hundreds of
sell
miles on the
books?
surface, it was projected to the accuracy of a single
Yeah,
chose
12
to
of
move
course.
to Atlantis because of the Kundalini.
That's
In humans,
crazy.
The Kundalini is often referred to as the energy serpent that runs up and down your spine. When activated, it provides an immense amount of energy through all
This
of the
is
chakras.
just wrong.
The Earth itself
This
also
is
has a Kundalini because the
pissing
Earth
me
is
off.
alive, like an
This is
organism
just
running from the
horseshit.
center of the planet to a specific place on the surface. Wherever the Kundalini resides, suddenly, in a single day, the Nicals breathed life into the Tree of Life on the surface of Atlantis. This created vortexes of energy rotating out of each and every circle.
yes,
Once
yes,
the
yes, yes,
vortexes were established, the children of Lemuria began to be called forth. Right-brained, we were a female species, like a 12-year-old girl, and some of our centers weren't working yet. They had worked with these energies, but only mastered 8 of the 10. Each migrating Lemurian was attracted to one of these 8 centers on Atlantis, depending on the nature of the individual. There, they settled and began to build cities. That left 2 vortexes with nobody using them, not a single person. These 2 vortexes were pulling life toward them, and in life, you can't have an empty place. Life will find a way to fill it. Similar to if you were driving along a freeway.
In life, you cannot have an empty place. Because, much like my favorite actor in Jurassic Park said, life finds a way. What's that guy's name? What's the guy's name? You guys are going to talk about. He's in Thor Ragnarok. Life finds a way. Well, someone say it, chat. Chat, say the thing. Say the thing, chat. Jeff Goldblum. Thank you. Thank you.
Way, following another car, and you drop too far behind, someone will fill the place. That's exactly what happened on Atlantis.
The bomb is
Though
about
the
to drop.
Lemurians had only filled 8 of the vortex areas, Mayan records state clearly that there were 10 cities in Atlantis when it fell. You can see these records in the Troano document, which is now located in the British Museum. This document is estimated to be 3,500 years old, and it describes in detail the sinking of Atlantis. To fill these 2 empty vortexes, according to Thoth, 2 extraterrestrial races stepped in. Not one, but 2
I hate how
completely different races.
too much of
the
this
first
is
race
according
were
to
the
Thoth.
Hebrews, coming from our future. Thoth says that they came from
I misheard. No. I misheard. I obviously misheard. I misheard.
different races. The first race were the Hebrews, coming from our... Not one, but 2 completely different races. The first race were the Hebrews, coming from our future. Thoth says that...
Hebrews. Yes. Sorry, I didn't mishear. I forgot. I forgot about when the Jews invented time traveling. I just forgot about it. It's very obvious. Very obvious that they invented time traveling and they came back on Thoth's
They
word.
came from off-planet, but we don't know where exactly. The Hebrews were kind of like a kid who went through 5th grade and didn't make it, so they had to do that grade over again. They learned all the math, the left brain stuff, but they didn't get the right brain aspect of evolving consciousness, the doing. They didn't graduate to the next level of evolution, so they had to do it again. They knew a
Damn, that's fucking racist as shit. You guys hear that? Holy moly. Damn. Okay.
lot of... We could talk about this more, but let's continue for now. There were no problems caused by the Hebrews coming to Atlantis. They actually benefited our evolution. The other race that stepped in caused big problems. These beings came from the nearby planet
This is propaganda towards children. This is trying to get kids to like fall for this cult and buy the books and go to the goddamn sex dungeon. This is not safe.
to them, and it has to
This
do
is
with
scary.
something called the Lucifer experiment. From the very beginning of creation, everything is simply an
Lucifer
experiment.
experiment?
Creation itself was just consciousness creating and inhabiting itself in that creation. There is no divine plan. Spirit can do whatever it wants. Having said that, if Spirit decides to cut itself off from the rest of consciousness and create a separate reality on its own, it can do that too. This is called the Lucifer experiment. Because Spirit is God, it can do this.
What up, Lurky?
There is nothing wrong with that. We've kind of been led to believe that Lucifer
Chan
is
Chan got
evil
partnered
and the
for
devil.
Who's Chan Chan? Did I get fucked up? Should I be pissed that Chan Chan got partnered faster than me? Who the fuck is Chan Chan? Mr. Chan Chan. Partnered. How many followers? 4.9K? Half? Literally half? What's his average viewers? Can I show you something? What do you notice? What do you notice about these two? And let's change it to 30 days. Let's change it to 30 days. 30 days I think is fair. 30. Actually, we can even do 90. I don't mind 30 days. 30's fine. 30's fine. 90's fine. Let's do 90 because it takes them 90 days to fucking partner at this point. Let's do 90. Let's do 90. Any second now, Solino. Over the last 90 days, Mr. Chan Chan had 64 average viewers. Over the last 90 days, he streamed 285 hours. That's more than me. That's the one thing he did more than me. Over the last 90 days, I had 157 average viewers, aka 2.5 times as many. 2.5 times as many. I smile more than anyone on Twitch. In fact, you guys had a hard time finding a picture of me not smiling. How many hours watched? Hours watched is important because that's what I'm creating as ad inventory for Twitch. I am creating ad inventory based on how many hours people watch me. 35,000 hours. That's a lot of hours. That's a lot of hours. 16,000. Yucky. So even though he streamed more hours than me, it doesn't matter because he had less hours watched, chat. In general, you both deserve it. You just like extra deserve it. I'm just grumpy. I get you're mad about not being a partner, but no point in bringing down Mr. Chan Chan. He's probably sick. I'm not bringing him down. I'm upset that these metrics got partnered when I've been denied so many times. I had better metrics than this last time I got denied. You know what I mean? I had better metrics when I got denied. Please watch, you'll understand. What is this? Oh, he knows how to dance. Is this what I need to do? Oh, he's so sweaty. Oh my god, you're so sweaty, Mr. Chan Chan. He seems like a homie. He actually seems like a really cool guy.
Lucifer is just another means of perceiving the reality.
I did not accept the job at
It is not
Twitch.
a unity perception of oneness, but rather a duality perception of two-ness. There's a flower of life pattern for Lucifer as well, but that's a big topic for another time. Anytime the Lucifer experiment has been attempted in the universe, it always ends in failure. The species will cut itself off from love and will become incredibly male, left-brained. What always ends up happening is that everyone becomes very greedy. There is no compassion for one another, and everyone ends up fighting until they end up killing themselves. More than 1 million years ago, the beings on Mars joined the Lucifer experiment, and it failed dramatically. Basically, they cut themselves off from the unity of the universe and created a separate reality. When the Martians severed the love bond, they became pure male, logical beings with no emotions. What happened on Mars was that they ended up fighting.
The fact that the male brain is logical beings with no emotion is such gendered horseshit. I gotta say, Hidden Narwhal
became a battleground. Eventually, it became clear that Mars was not going to survive. They blew their atmosphere away and destroyed the surface of the planet. Nova recently did an episode on planetary magnetics, and they found some interesting things about Mars. The planet didn't have a magnetic system, however the surface was magnetized, implying that at one point it did, but that something happened. Before Mars was destroyed, they built huge tetrahedral pyramids. They built 3, 4, and 5-sided pyramids, eventually building a complex that was able to build a synthetic Merkaba.
Face? Huh? Face? Face on Mars? What are we supposed to be getting out of this? I don't know, man.
After 1 million years or so, it's been eroded, but the proof is there. Now, because the Martians were severed from the Unity consciousness, they couldn't create a living Merkaba. They simply used it as a tool. They created a synthetic Merkaba to travel in time and find a new home. A small group of Martians tried to get away from Mars before it was destroyed, and that place they found was Earth. About 65,000 years in our past. They saw this little vortex sitting there, just pulling in life, with no one in it. They didn't ask permission. Being part of the Lucifer experiment, they just said, alright, let's do it. And they stepped onto that vortex, and in doing so, they joined and changed our evolutionary path. Thoth's father, Thome, was one of the Nakals who set up Atlantis on the island.
You can't forget about Thome. Thome, son of Thoth. If you forget about Thome, it's like forgetting about Dre. You know what I'm saying? Hey, just go Thome if you forgot about Thome.
That island, the top of the Tree of Life, was the brain of Atlantis, and on it was a small city called Poseidon. This city is what Plato was discussing when he said that Poseidon bore 10 children, the 10 circles on the Tree of Life.
It's so simple. It's so simple. When Plato said that Cleito bore Poseidon 10 sons, he didn't mean that this mythological god had sex with a woman on Earth. He meant that Poseidon, the area of the island connected to Atlantis, had 10 energy fields.
There were only a few thousand Martians who came to Earth through the synthetic Merkaba. The first thing they did when they arrived in Atlantis was try to take over the continent. They tried to declare war and invade. However, they were vulnerable due to their small numbers compared to the millions of Atlanteans, and we finally subdued them. We were able to...
Did he say we? Did he say we finally subdued them? Is he an Atlantean?
to stop them from conquering us, but we could not send them back. When this happened on our evolutionary path, we now had the planetary consciousness of a 14-year-old girl. The Martians were an incredibly male species and also very old, so what you had was a 14-year-old girl being taken over by a 60 or 70-year-old man.
Alright, that's enough of this. This is fucking weird, champ, dude. The fact that people believe this, hey, actually, if any of you guys believe stuff like this and you want to talk about it, like I understand that maybe I come out here and I say, hey, this is dog shit stupid and you're dumb. If you think this is real and you want to talk about it and you like literally just need someone to talk to, like I'm here. Because this is actually crazy. This is actually crazy. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, you said it was wild, and it is wild. What's scary is the production value. Yeah, I can't believe this guy drew all of this. Yeah. What do you mean future Jews didn't take over Atlantis? Yeah, I'm just telling you they didn't. I'm telling you they didn't. I don't know exactly what happened thousands of years ago or millions of years ago. Actually, I feel pretty confident on what happened thousands, right? But millions of years ago, who knows? At the beginning, before the Big Bang, who knows? But I know that Thoth and Thom are not real. I know that the Hebrews did not create time travel and go back to Atlantis. I mean, maybe there's another event that they would have wanted to stop. If I'm Jewish and I have time travel, I don't think I'm going back to Atlantis, right? It's pretty obvious where I'm going. Right?